5:59, Valerie, if you'd like to lead us in prayer.
Dear Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for the wonderful weather that we've enjoyed the last couple of days. I thank you for all the people that came out this evening, and I ask you to be with us and guide us and direct us. And especially want to thank you for our mayor and for our heads of our departments that keep us safe every day and watch over us and take care of us. And these things I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Yeah, we hurry up and wait again.
Yeah, hurry up and wait.
We are live.
Okay, 6 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order.
Mr. Grant?
Present.
Mrs. Carnahan? Mrs. Moss?
Present.
Mr. Voorhees?
Present.
Mrs. Hargan?
Present.
Mayor Roderick?
Present.
Attorney Bars?
Present.
Mayor?
Thank you. Has everyone had an opportunity to look at the minutes? Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve as printed.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Passed. Okay, department heads. Oh, do we have any citizens petitions? Department heads, Mr. Swank.
Leaf season's in full swing. Hopefully you guys haven't had too many complaints with you. I think we've been doing a pretty good job taking care of everything. Water projects on track. Been quite a few bumps in the road on that. A lot of additional valves having to be installed on that project, but we were doing pretty good with our internal budget, so a lot of that we're kind of self-funding. That way it doesn't add to the cost of the project.
Great.
I think that's everything.
Thank you.
And I know the community's seen the notices come out with the low water pressure and small inconveniences and things like that, but I think we're replacing 23 fire hydrants around the city or something like that. So please be understanding as we go through this process, but definitely needed. I can guarantee you that.
I also think it's super nice that we send out those reminders.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you.
That's great.
I think that's really nice.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Chief Miller.
I was notified 2 weeks ago at a department meeting that Officer Cheever is going to be leaving us. He accepted a conditional letter of employment with West Lafayette. It's a great thing for him. It's going to work out better for his family and his home life, and as well as continue his career. With that being said, we've opened up a hiring process. We have handed out 13 applications, which is double what we did during our last hiring process. So they'll be going for one more week, and then we'll have testing the first weekend in December to start that process for our next hire. Along with that, we had a plan with Baker Tilly that we started 2 years ago in preparation for the hire of an 8th officer. With our vehicle purchases that we currently have, we have the vehicle already on site for an 8th officer. Our budget for the 2024 budget year is already prepared to withstand an 8th officer. And the problems that we're running into, we've done a very good job of eliminating overtime hours in our system. What that has created, though, is a lack of ability to decrease our employees' benefit time, because we're running a day shift and a night shift on both rotations, and then a mid shift that swings through both rotations. And so if that mid shift is not working that rotation when somebody requests off, oftentimes it's that other night shift officer that comes in and covers that. Well, that night shift officers then incurred overtime hours, which we try to eliminate so that we're not writing overtime checks. Well, if that officer took a day off there, that 12 hours off, and then comes in to cover that shift, then we just eliminated getting rid of that overtime, those overtime hours. Our FICA and Medicare line item is prepared for 2024's budget to sustain that officer, as well as our retirement and our salary. I guess what I'm asking the council is the Attica Police Department's budget, as well as the logistics to hire an 8th officer, are all in place for the 2024 year. And seeking approval as we run this process to possibly hire 2 and acquire that 8th officer. I think it cuts down our acquisition costs of that 8th officer, and we have everything in line to do that at this time based on what we started preparing with Baker Tilly.
I will say one of their biggest challenges is they don't get holidays really like we do or anybody else in the rest of the city. And everything that I never really considered, but they work 4 12-hour days. Is that right? How does your shifts work?
They work 5 12 hours one week and then 2 12 hours the next week.
Right. So the way that falls, if they just, you explained it to me that one day, is it vacation time or is it?
The vacation time.
Yeah, because they don't really get compensated for what they're off for that time, for the hours they work, is the way it was explained.
Because they're working so many hours, they're working 60 hours one week and then 24 the next week. And just not having that 8th person to have a designated mid shift on each shift, they have to swing back and forth to cover each other's night shifts. If, hey, my child's we got a ball game tonight, so I want off. So the other night shift swings over. Well, then that person just acquired 12 hours overtime. So then they'll kind of switch back. Well, then at that point, we eliminate no benefit time.
It's difficult to take vacations really. And with the amount of help they have now without creating the overtime and then making it back up.
So vehicle-wise, equipment-wise, and everything else, what type of an expense are we looking at?
I'll be covered within our 2025 budget or 2024 budget. It'll all be within. There'll be nothing that comes out of the general fund for additional expenditures.
Well, I know we have talked on and off about ordinance officer and several other things that maybe if they have some extra bandwidth there, then that would be some additional stuff, oversight on ordinances and things that would suck that up, which would eliminate that need. But
This year, I've handled majority of the ordinance violations just to see them all the way through, and it was pretty good to see 3 months of work to get it all the way through. The hard part is when those officers need off and I can't cover them, then I go to the road. And when I go to the road, those ordinances get set to the side with call volume. And I'm hoping that in this program, that will eliminate our scheduling conflicts to where I can continue to do the ordinances myself. I think it's better handled by one individual from start all the way to finish. And we had better success with that in 2023 than I think I've seen in the past 5 or 6 years since I've been here.
Yeah, I would agree, but there's always room for improvement. I mean, Kaylee and I were just talking about, we have parking problems in our neighborhood that we've had forever. And you guys are busy, I know that. But just to have an extra officer, and I think you should have the title ordinance officer, and then he can fill in for when you need him elsewhere. But we really need somebody just focusing on that, is how I feel.
Yeah, I agree. There was a recliner, I
Saw
texted
that.
Dwayne, and it was in my neighborhood for like a week and a half, and no one picked it up. It was just on the sidewalk,
It's for somebody to take a rest while they're walking.
I guess so.
Just a rest break.
So anyway, I just finally texted Dwayne, and I'm like, could someone pick it up? But I do think that we need someone designated for those. And I hated to text, but I know that you all are busy. I mean, it wasn't a
Yeah,
letter or anything.
but I need you to text me.
Right, I know.
I need you to text
I
me
know.
because, and part of that's just getting to that. If an officer comes on and he's the only person on it and takes 5 calls and 1 arrest through the night, they're done. They haven't got to do much traveling. When if you actually had a mid shift there, we actually have coverage. Right now, if an officer makes an arrest, and it could be a DUI arrest, and they have to go to the hospital for a blood draw, they might be outside of the city for 3, 4, or 5 hours prior to getting back and
Sure.
completing that arrest. This would allow that other mid shifter, and what we do is we'd run that other mid shift from 2P to 2A. So we have another officer during our most congested times within the city.
Well, I'm supportive of an 8th officer. I am, especially we budgeted for it, we prepared
Yeah.
for it, and we want our city safe. And
We want our ordinances enforced.
And we
for
want
sure.
our ordinances enforced also. And I'm so happy that you've taken the initiative to enforce those and to also follow up on
There's still a
those.
lot more to do.
I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure, because I don't think that they've been enforced, really heartily until now.
Well, and I tell you, Ingrid has been a lifesaver to that, by the flow charts that she built for us and got us as a city and a department up to date to properly enforce those ordinances.
Mhm.
So
How are people reacting to the enforcement of those?
very well. I mean, the first round, I handed out 56 notices of violations. And by the end of the process, we only issued 8 citations and had 8 people in court for those 56 or whatever notices of violation that we did.
That's
And then we've cleaned up properties, and we've seen properties get cleaned up that haven't been cleaned up in quite a few years. Avenue 8, we dropped Beatles towing in, and we sat there for 3 hours while he made the rounds until we yanked all the cars out of there. And we finally got it to the legal point to go do it. So
Very
we
good.
called him, and I went over there and sat and ate a candy bar, and he just kept going round and around until we got them all out of there.
Very good,
So very time-consuming projects.
right, that's what it takes.
Thank you for doing that.
Yes,
And
thank you.
by having those guys on the road, it allows me to take that time to go
Mhm.
do those.
We do appreciate your leadership in this. We have seen the evidence of your work.
Thank you.
Well, does anybody have anything else to say or want to make a motion?
I will make a motion that we approve the adding of an 8th officer to the Attica Police.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
Uh, Those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Maybe you
Now
can
the
take a
road-
vacation now.
Now the real word we're getting, you gotta get them
Get
trained and
one.
ready to go, so that vacation doesn't happen for another 6 months.
Do you have anything else, Chief?
I have nothing else.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Chief Little.
So far to date, the Attica Fire Department has done about 500 runs, which is an uptick, almost 100 runs from last year. It's getting to be very taxing on the volunteer side of it, especially during the day. I know most of you see me run around town there today, so we're trying to cover the best we can. To kind of help with that, next year I'm going to be applying for a SAFER grant. What this is federal dollars that helps departments either hire people or pay their volunteers a stipend per run. If we're awarded that, we'll be paying them $35 for a medical call, $50 for a fire, and $20 for attending meetings and trainings. But there'll have to be a cap because that money has to last for up to 4 years. But there's a potential that these guys could be getting paid, $3,000 a year to be doing this, which in the grand scheme of things, in my opinion, still isn't much, but it's something. It's better than what they're getting now. So I'm going to be working with the grant writer here in the next few weeks to work on that. Hillsborough just got one for $220,000.
That's awesome.
The city of Attica will be going for $500,000 just because of the run volume, or the amount of people we can have on the department. So fingers crossed we get that. I think that would help also bring more members into the department.
Yes.
I see that. So I'm going to work pretty hard on that here in the next few weeks and see if we can get that done. We're also going to be working on the new applications for the part-time people for next year. That will start in June once the territory money kicks in. We'll be hiring 4 part-time individuals for a salary of $22,500 a year. The times during the day are still undetermined. I need to do a little bit more studying on the busiest times.
And these are actual officers from another department, aren't they?
These will be other firemen from other departments or within our department,
Okay.
if their schedules allow it.
So they'll
I
already
am
be
not-
trained is what I'm saying.
Yes, they will have to have certain qualifications to even to apply for it. Like firefighter 1, firefighter 2, EMT, and their hazmat stuff. I am not going to be involved in the hiring process. I'm going to put that onto the territory board, so there's no bias and people can't say that, well, he handpicked them. I don't want any of that. So once that gets all done, I'll let you guys know once we get closer to June. So the other thing is I always try to keep you guys involved and informed of what's going on with EMS. We're starting to see a large increase of either the ambulance not being in town or only one person being on that ambulance, which if you look at state law, it's actually illegal for them to have only one person on the ambulance, and they're relying on us to make their med calls or drive their ambulance or tech the call while they're making money. It's becoming a very, very big problem to the point where I'm going to start reporting it to the state of Indiana. It's not a housing issue or anything like that. It's a Fountain County problem. So
Are they just shorthanded or are they just not hiring enough?
They hire, but people leave, and it's because of administration. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's what it is. They tell me. I talk to all of them. A lot of them are my friends. So it's becoming a big, big problem. So I know I had a meeting with Mr. Grant and the mayor a month or so ago, and I threw the idea out at some point, maybe we just need to start looking at taking over the EMS and having our own EMS through the department. 24-hour shifts. It's a revenue maker for us. So
Sure.
this is going to be down the road. It's not going to be next year or 2 years from now, but I think it's time that we really, really start thinking about it as the city starts growing. It's our responsibility to provide these things for our citizens. So,
I notice a lot of times you guys are there well before.
oh yeah,
Usually
especially,
the fire department's there first.
especially now that I'm working here part-time on my days off. I mean, I beat them by 6-7 minutes easy.
I know from the store, anytime we've called, usually the fire guys are here first.
Yeah. And I have a great group of volunteer guys. I mean,
How
we
many do you
we have 18 total. We by far have, in my opinion, the absolute best fire department in the Bi-County area. I mean, hands down. No one else does the run volume that we do. No one else trains the way we do. Nobody has the certifications the way we do. So I think that's something to hang your hat on right there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
These guys really bust their butt for us, and
Mhm.
I
Well,
can't.
Troy's
I
been
can't
doing
thank
it for a
them enough.
long time.
Yes.
About 34 years now.
Wow.
Wow.
And I always drive by on a Sunday and see you all out there doing your thing. I'm sure maintenance and
Oh yeah.
cleaning and polishing and,
Well, when the citizens buy you $500,000 truck, it's your responsibility to take care of it.
yeah,
So,
well, we appreciate it.
Yes, we do.
So if we were to venture down that in a few years, and take some of the responsibility from Fountain County, is there any funding that we would get from Fountain County for that, for the
So,
territory? Or
That's one thing we need to look at, especially now that we have this territory. If we start covering, say we just cover the 3 townships that we have in the territory, right? Well, they're paying taxes in there to the county, which is going to be a discussion with the county, that those funds, I think, should be diverted to the EMS that's running in that area. So,
because we could run into the same situation where we've got one bus and it's tied up, and then
yeah, you'll have a
back up
mutual
from
agreement,
county.
just like we do with other
So-
fire departments. You know, if we're tied up, you know, either Warren County would come over or Fountain County would cover, or we might help them to a certain point. You know, we're not going to go all the way to the far part of the county, but that's just kind of what you do. So,
and having someplace across the track. So
Yeah.
that's a must
Solve that
have.
problem.
So is this like a county thing that we need to go speak to the county about? Like if we were concerned about it, I need to go to
Probably
the
have to talk to
county?
the commissioners.
That's what I was.
so the commissioners are the biggest one.
It's been a big county issue, and it's been an issue
It's
for
not-
Warren County, Fountain County. It's been an ongoing thing for.
I think to try to be proactive, I think we really need to start looking into it ourselves.
I have 2 employees at the store that are training to be EMTs, and one of them's already been hired on in Fountain County.
Yeah, so the problem is they get hired, then they might only last a month. And then
Well, it sounds
they
like
leave.
if the leadership is poor, it wouldn't take too much to find some people who might.
We're hearing that they could have 5 to 6 leaving here in the
Shit.
next month and a half.
They have 2 medics leaving in the next couple months. So,
That's really scary.
It is.
I just want you guys to be aware of why we're seeing such an increase in runs, what we're doing. And we're trying to do as much as we possibly can to help cover that. But like I said, it's very taxing on the volunteer side of it. So we're working on it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else?
No, it's okay.
Thank you.
Mrs. Broadwater?
I handed out the current financials. Again, you'll see that there are some appropriations that are in the negative. I will put together the list of additional appropriations and get them advertised, and then they'll be presented for review and approval at the next meeting, so we can get them into the VLGF for approval. If you look through the appropriation list that I gave you, most of the appropriations will be able to be covered within the department by just moving funds around. There are a few line items such as promotions where there are no other appropriations in that to move around and cover. So we will need to do an additional. Also, if you look at that, the park equipment for approximately $250,000, it wasn't budgeted. We thought it was going to go in last year, so it wasn't included in this year's budget. We'll have to do an additional for that, an additional for the police cars that we thought we were going to get in last year's budget. And, due to delivery issues, we didn't get them until this year. So there are some appropriations in departments that are over. It was anticipated, it was expected, and we've got it covered. If there are any things outside of those, I've already worked with the department heads and they're taken care of. But this will be presented for a public hearing and review at the December meeting.
So do you think we'll need to have another meeting other than our December 11th?
I'm hoping not.
Okay.
I'm hoping not. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bannon, did you have anything?
I did. Is it on the list to talk about this?
Is that Duke relocate? Yeah, I have it on unfinished business.
Okay.
Okay. All right, on unfinished business, first I have the Harrison Steel abatement schedule. Rob Harrison and Jack Seaman are here. Judd, would you like to elaborate on this?
Yeah, so Harrison Steel has filed a Form SB1 asking for a 10-year abatement. And Heidi Amspaugh from Baker Tilly kind of analyzed the approach because there were several people who wanted something, an alternative to 10% per year for 10 years. And so originally Heidi had prepared 2 scenarios, and then she zoomed into the RDC meeting on Thursday night and heard from Harrison Steel about what they were thinking. And she set on Friday 4 scenarios, which if you look at the footnotes to her one-page spreadsheet, because it's pretty complicated, but you can see what the schedules are in the footnotes. And so in terms of the process, without getting into the schedule for a second, tonight you would declare their real estate to be an economic revitalization area and adopt a schedule, some type of schedule for 10 years for the abatement, whatever you guys approve on by a motion. And that will become part of a resolution that you'll sign tonight called a declaratory resolution that declares the economic revitalization area, the ERA, which is exactly the same ERA, the area from 2012's abatement and from 2001's abatement. Okay. That sets in motion a couple of notices that get run in the paper that I've got ready to go for the December 11th meeting, where you would adopt a confirmatory resolution after you hear from public comments, because it's a hearing and because taxpayers' money is being discussed, they have a right to be heard. And so you'll listen to public comments, you'll ask questions of your own if you have more questions, and then you'll pass the confirmatory resolution, which will lock that whatever schedule you decide on tonight in for 10 years as it gets added to the tax rolls, meaning they've installed one of their machines, they're soon to have installed another one of their machines, and then the third one is, I think, going in May. So the abatement attaches when they get it installed, of course, and they get a Form 11 from the county in the following year saying we've added this new tax base to your assessed value, and the abatement is on the increase in the assessed value for what they've added. That's what gets abated, not the underlying real estate that's always getting taxed. And you can't abate real estate like that. You can only abate improvements to it, whether it's a building, which would be a real estate tax abatement, or manufacturing equipment, or assembly equipment. You can do all kinds of different equipment. There are 4 kinds of equipment that you can do. Research and development is one of them. But you do the 10-year abatement schedule for either one. Or you could do a 5-year abatement schedule for personal property if you wanted to, but really, not many people do that. So tonight is the beginning of this process where they have asked for an abatement. I said that after tonight, there'll be 2 notices run. One is a notice that there's going to be this hearing on December 11th for the confirmatory resolution. One is for the same night, for December 11th, to waive their non-compliance, which don't get excited, it's really common. It's where they have installed the machinery or they have built the structures, if it was structure related, then asked for the abatement. It's out of order at that point. And so you have all of the power, all of the authority, and you can waive that non-compliance. And it's routine, I'm telling you. But you have to advertise it in the paper because that's a separate hearing that takes place. We'll ask if anybody on December 11th is interested in discussing the non-compliance. Typically, no one says anything about it. And then you would make a motion if you feel like you should waive, if you want to make that motion to waive their non-compliance, then that's not an issue anymore. And then you move on to the confirmatory resolution that approves what you decide tonight for the abatement schedule. And Heidi wasn't available for tonight, or she would have joined you. She apologized. She had a prior engagement for her firm she had to be a part of. It was like a partners meeting or something, and she had to be a part of that. And she tried to answer a bunch of the questions on Thursday night, and then this email Friday with the 4 scenarios that she sent were her attempt at coming up with a schedule that addressed most of the concerns. But kind of an underlying theme of her 4 scenarios is, and Scott and Kaylee heard this too, so if I'm not saying this correctly or if there's a clearer way to say it, speak up. But there's a point where you don't want to over abate what the increase in the assessed value is for the improvements that they've just added. There's a point where you don't want to do that. And so these schedules have been kind of set up to avoid that scenario. So that they're not trying to abate, they're getting more abatement than they even have assessed value. And then it's just a waste of that abatement. They get nothing out of it and you get nothing out of it, so you don't over abate.
Thank you. Excuse me.
If you look at Heidi's spreadsheet, which at the bottom of the page it says page 2, and it says subject to the attached letter dated November 10, 2023. At the very bottom of of her chart, it shows what their current investment is, the assessed value is, and then it goes through 4 scenarios: traditional 100, which is 10% per year for 10 years, and then a modified 90. And if you look at the footnote that goes with the modified 90, find 1 and 2 and 4. So that would be, it starts at 90, then it goes to 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, and 10. So it doubles the 10% in the last 2 years instead of starting at 100 and ending at 0. And then the modified 80 goes the same way, kind of same idea, has 3 years of 10% at the end of it. And the point of these abatement schedules, the reason why they were kind of monkeying around with the abatement instead of just doing it 10, 10, 10, was the idea was to try and get some money, realizing that they're out this money now, putting these improvements in, and that's why most abatements begin with something very high. But the city has some needs too, and so the idea was to try and get some more than just 100% abatement the first year, maybe something less, so something's coming in so that the city can be working on the RDC can be working on some of the things that they are planning on coming through, like the residential tip area and things like that. Just future development for the city, not just the residential TIF, anything that is covered by the RDC.
Okay.
But that was the thinking of why not just 10% per year for 10 years. The idea was to try and front load it a little bit, and so that we've got a little something coming in earlier than the traditional 10% per year for 10 years.
Excuse me.
We shared some communication. Kaylee and I were there from the meeting. We're part of RDC. And basically we asked her to provide some additional opportunity or additional options. Basically with the 100%, what was presented by Harrison's, which we want to be supportive, but that would start out with 0 for the city. We went with the 90, and as you look over here at the gray, bless you, that shows where it's over assessing the value of the abatement quite a bit. So then we asked her to throw in the 80-10, which brings that down quite a bit. The only one that it would start out not over assessing the value of what they're doing for the abatement is the last option, which is starting at 40%.
I hated that one.
Harrison does a lot for our community. In addition to this, they're doing 2.4 million a year in capital improvements. This is on top of all this. So
And that wasn't even the worst one. The worst one was one we got like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
yes,
And it was
50.
it was awful. It was I get what they explained it to us, but I hated it. They took it off because Scott and I hated it.
So do you all come with a recommendation?
My recommendation is, and Kaylee will speak for you. My recommendation is the 80-10. That does show a over assessed value initially for that first 2025, 2026, 2027. But all those are less than the additional 2.4 million they're putting in on top of that. That doesn't, they're out all these expenses right now. This brings in some revenue for the RDC and some of the projects we have going on. It doesn't hit them or give them all the benefit. It doesn't give the city all of them. So I thought that was kind of a mutual interest and kind of a happy medium. But that's just my recommendation, Kayla.
Yeah, that one was any of the other ones besides this last one was fine with me looking at them. Brian Kraft is also on that committee, and he made the comment, and I appreciated the comment because it's the amount of money that's coming in during that time that we would get. $25,000. The projects we're doing for $25,000. That's like $5.
Yes.
So I mean, truly,
Right.
take into account. That's all I'm saying about it.
Right.
But I'm happy if you guys want to do the 80-10, that's fine. I'm just throwing that out there. It's the amount of money that's coming in, the difference. It's not a difference.
It's when we get it, but overall, it's exact same amount, no matter what model you pick.
Right.
It's the exact same amount of money that the city's getting. So the
Sure.
taxpayers are not
Yes.
getting shorted. It's just when and if. And like she said,
Yeah.
$25,000 is not enough to really make a dent in any of the big projects or anything like that we
Right.
want to do right now.
And
So
we should also say Harrison Steel requested the first one, right? The traditional one.
That's correct.
So that's the very first one, the 110 and 10 one. So I just want to make sure you know that too.
And would
You guys
Harrison
take
still like to have any
I did not
input?
get a copy of it.
Sorry.
Rob, do you need one?
Jack's done all the work.
So the only-
Jack's an accountant. I've been recruiting for a long time, and I don't know.
So my only suggestion is I personally do not like the last one. I don't like it. I don't think that it's fair. I don't like it.
Which.
And I also don't like that it's just weird to me. The other one, you guys would have loved it. The numbers were 50, 35, 40, 45, 55, 50, 50, 50, 45, and 45. Explanation. That was what I wrote at that meeting.
Not that big.
Not that big. So, but otherwise it would be, the option 3 I wrote out.
I mean, do you guys have a preference?
So I think just from Harrison Steel's standpoint, we made the initial request of standard abatement that delays incremental cash flows, increased cash flows into the TIF. The city's hoping to have some incremental cash flows coming in the TIF earlier on. There was something thrown out as a kind of in between there, which was to still phase in incrementally, but give the city some funding up front for the first couple of years versus nothing for the first couple of years. So I mean, I think it's really up to the council. We just wanted to make sure everybody understood what the options were and, made the
Well,
request on
Harrison
standard,
Steel
but
means a lot to the city.
Well,
And
we understand that.
We really want to work with you.
We just
but-
want to make sure you kind of understand what
Sure.
decisions there were, and we appreciate the consideration, whatever you decide to do. And I don't think we have a problem if you decide to do something different, but we start with a request and
Sure.
do what you need to do.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you. Mr. Grant, what do you think?
Just after looking them over, I tend to agree with Scott. I think it's a fair option. It really doesn't cut them out of a lot of money, and it allows us to have a little bit of money up front. I think that's probably the best of both worlds.
I think we'll need a motion, and then is there a resolution, Jeff?
So if you make the motion on the schedule, I'll pencil it in and give you the resolution with the penciled in table. So it's all in one place.
So are you thinking 80-20 or 80-10?
Can I see that first? You can have it, that's cool, you can have it. I see
What do you
it.
think, Valerie?
That's what I said.
Yeah, anything.
Jack,
It's just,
It's a good
can have this
And
one.
I'm fine. I just did that last.
That's
week.
my copy. You can have that.
Yeah, I'm not going That's just what, the one I read to you. I read it off. Maybe that's what we do with the traditional, or that. That's what we were like.
can you give us?
Can you please give us that one?
Trish, wait.
Yeah.
Hey, that's fine. I think we're in agreement with that.
Is everybody in agreement on the 80-10?
Yes.
Do we have a motion?
I will make a motion that we proceed with a tax abatement for Harrison Steel with the modified 80-10 model, as stated from Baker Tilly.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
I think Jed has it.
Oh, okay.
Jed has it.
That's the schedule, and we'll sign page 2. Page 2 from the beginning.
Scott, you want to sign that?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next I have on the list is the Duke utility. Mr. Bannon, if you'd like to elaborate on that.
Sure, I'm gonna pass around, I have one copy of each, so you just have to pass it. You've seen these before. This is the exhibit I sent out to you in an email showing the two alternate options. I do have to preface the conversation, though. We have had additional conversations since, and so I'm gonna give you some updates. HWC's involved in this, and we've kind of reached a limit with our ability to make something happen because there are too many hands in it. And, you know, Duke is Duke. And so we contacted Lisa at HWC, who does a lot of their coordination for the utility companies. And a couple changes have come about that I really am here to get your feedback tonight so that I know where to go with this. Let's start talking first about AT&T. If you'll notice on there, I think it's on the plan, there's an AT&T vault right in the intersection of the two alleyways. And for the longest time, we believed it was 2 foot too high to accommodate what we were building. And they've come back with a big price tag and they're fighting all of it, plus long delays, and you know how it goes. So HWC went back and looked at their drawings, and they found that they can just put 10 inches of asphalt on top of the vault to comply. So we don't need the dirt that was previously shown. And then they can modify the curb locations and the grades, and they think they can make it work. I looked at it today, and functionally it works. It throws one of our curbs out of alignment, but it doesn't really affect anything. No one's going to notice. And so I don't have anything to show you because we just talked about it today, but I'm going to recommend that you just leave the ball
Good.
and stop the fight. The second one for Duke is, it's hard to know what button to push with that group. And so what's happened is we went to our regional contact, which we're supposed to, and she can't really answer for us. So she has to go up through the ladder to get the agreements. Well, in that process of going up through the ladder, she explained it as an aesthetic choice. Well, once it's aesthetic, then it becomes your burden, the city, to pay for it. We don't believe it's an aesthetic choice. We believe it's a safety issue. So as soon as a car hits one of those poles, which is unprotected, and it comes down and electrocutes someone, we've got a problem. And those poles there's 7 of them right there in line with the driveway and the parking stalls. And so what we discussed today was that Lisa is the person's name that works for HWC that does this statewide. And so she would like to tackle this again with people higher up the chain and to discuss the safety issue. If Duke agrees that it is a safety issue, then they will address the safety issue. We can't tell them how to do it, but they will do it. If they choose to replace poles, then they can choose to replace poles. We, again, can't tell them how to do it, but there it is. What you're seeing there is their local engineer out of Lafayette coming in to solve a problem for us. Each time they put a price tag on it because we asked for a specific solution. So there's an odd dynamic there. So I guess what I need from you, just to know how to direct this conversation, is what would you like to see in the end? You can see from the pictures how it looks today. The price points that we have for the 2 options are what they deem as an aesthetic solution because we told them where to put the poles. So there is a possibility that they could come back and do something, but most likely it will be a pole solution, not underground. And we don't know how it's going to turn out because it's their choice.
So if it is a pole solution, they'll have to move the poles so they're not in the way.
Right.
Which is the option that they presented for like 108,000 or whatever. Right?
But if they come back and say it needs to be for a safety reason, do we have to pay for it?
No.
So that's I'm saying right now,
See,
that's my solution. That's my solution.
I think that's how we present it.
And that's what we'll do, but we can't say what they're going to do.
Well, I guess let me say I'm just thinking
They'll just get them out of the
money-wise.
way.
Yes, that's my thought.
They'll just
How-
do whatever it takes to make them sit, that they feel they're safe.
Safe.
Yeah.
But that cuts down from 107 or 185 to nothing. Or
Correct.
Okay, nothing.
Correct.
Where I would rather put that money somewhere else,
I
like
don't
to make,
disagree.
you know what I'm saying, like
Yeah.
Potentially into the expense we're gonna have for the
For
fuel
something else.
storage from the tanks.
or something. Yeah.
And just understand, and I'm not arguing one way or another, but we are opening up the view corridor, and you can see it today, of all those power poles, because whatever gets built back in front of it won't block the whole thing. So,
Right.
just because we've got a big parking lot. So it's just something to consider, but I do want, your specific direction, because we've got to do it quickly, because if we start construction next spring, then all this stuff has to get into the works now.
My suggestion is to make them fix it, to make it safe.
Yes.
Okay.
And whatever they come up with, I think we'd live with. Then we'd
Yeah, I do
save the
too.
money.
I think we live with
Yeah.
whatever that
Okay.
is.
Then the second one, and it involves, I think, Christmas lights. We've got some ongoing confusion because there's so many different people within Duke Energy doing different things and they don't talk to each other. So what I've suggested, and I want your permission, is that from the point of right now, we're kind of done with design, right? So I've helped coordinate that. For all construction items, I think that Lisa and HWC should be the single point of contact for utilities. And that includes Eric, are you here?
Yes.
And that includes if you get a call, send them directly to Lisa, because that's been our problem. And there's just a lot of different voices, and inside of Duke, it's unbelievably chaotic. So-
HWC has always been in good contact with Eric, I know for sure, so I
They're
think
very
that-
responsive.
yes.
And the person, you met Lisa? She,
Yes, I would talk to her.
she can handle it. I mean, I'm convinced, and Eric was very supportive of that. So if that's okay, we'll just keep going down that road. And then when it comes to the Christmas lights, and this is something I think you need to weigh in on, the break in the circuit happened during demo, and it shut down the lights for the 200 block. And I looked at it tonight, does it go any further south?
Goes down to the 100 blocks south.
So it's 2 blocks. If they repair that, it's your cost through the contractor, but it ends up being your cost. If they put in the circuit from the interchange at Jackson and Mill and connect it the way it will be permanently installed, then it's still your cost, but it's always been your cost. So you're not paying twice for it, right? So I think we need some direction. Do you want the lights on November 30th? The only way to do that is to pay extra money and get a patch.
How much extra money?
Wait a minute, can I just say something?
Yeah.
We were not gonna do the 100 and the 200 block as far
Okay.
as the Christmas lights go, just so we clarify that. And we talked about that earlier. It was going to be not including the 200 block, but then on north. And that's where the Christmas lights and the snowflakes, when we're talking Christmas lights, we're talking snowflakes. That's where they're going. It's on the east, it's on the west side of the 100 block, because that wasn't affected by the break, on north, down to where the hotel used to be. So that block will have snowflakes, the block there where the vape shop was, that was gonna have snowflakes. If it was gonna be an easy fix to repair that line, then we could have the 200 and 100 block
So you didn't really need the
Going.
east side,
on the east side.
right?
Once we complete
But
the
even on the 200 block on the west side, we are not putting snowflakes up there. We were just starting at Mill Street because the 200 block on both sides, we considered that was Rod's project.
Yeah, it's a construction project.
Right, right.
So the question will be in this meeting that Dang coordinated is, what are we paying for? If it's temporary power for the Christmas tree and the things you just described,
That's the panel that would come off of one of those wood poles that they're talking about, what are you gonna do with it?
and so I just wanted input on that because, so it's clear for everybody what you want done. They do not, by the way, they do not have a completed design to hook up the streetlights just yet from the interchange, even though we started 3 months ago. They don't have it. So that's the challenge we're gonna have to work through.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding, but we're getting new lights eventually,
Mhm.
correct?
Right.
I don't want to fix it. I don't want to do anything unless we get those new lights in, because I think that that's a waste of money. That's my opinion. I love Christmas lights. I'm the biggest Christmas fan here, but I don't think that that's wise to put a patch on it. I'm not
Well,
sure.
we weren't even talking about putting Christmas lights on the 200 block.
Well, I guess, I mean,
They
even
want to put
even
up
with the
a
tree though, how much is,
Christmas tree on that corner.
It's just the.
but how much is it? That's with
Don't
the
know.
Christmas tree,
I
because
don't
my
know.
thought is, oh, it's $100, okay, fine.
Yeah.
But is it, let's be honest, is it gonna be $100?
I don't know.
What we're
I
talking
haven't-
about
I
here,
haven't
everybody,
heard
just
any
so you
pricing
know.
or anything.
The demolition project, during the demolition project, some wires were hit back there, kind of in between the 200 block. And 7 light poles were connected there through one source. So those lines were torn apart, they're severed. And rather than repairing them, which is a quick fix, but it's costly, we're rerouting all that stuff regardless. So it would be an expense that is not necessary, in my opinion. And I guess the biggest Christmas fan here, Kaylee, agrees.
I mean, that's my thought.
And I just want to say, when the snowflakes were ordered, because we had to order snowflakes, reconfirm the ones that are on Jackson Street and the ones on Perry Street, we only ordered 14 snowflakes. We did not order snowflakes for the east side of the 100 block and the 200 block. We took that completely.
You're only needing power for the Christmas tree, basically, right?
Power from the Christmas tree, and that was to come from, is it possible to have, what's it called there, a plat, the box like they have down there where the other, I'm sorry?
A meter base. on a
Yeah,
cell
off
phone.
of one of those wood poles is already existing.
So did I get that right, Eric, just for clarity? If we don't patch in the 200 block, you can still accommodate what
The
they're asking
streetlights
for?
are already on.
Okay.
They're on. Your
If
streetlights
we just out
downtown
the-
are on
if
for
we just out
those
the
that.
power, the one
Just that
house.
house.
Eric, let's ask you, you've done electrical work before. What do you think it'll cost to get power to that panel to,
You'll have a meter base, we'll have to find out if Duke Energy, if we're gonna require a metal H-frame, which is pretty much what most of them are requiring now. And if they'll work with, I know there's a meeting on Wednesday about all kinds of this different electrification and,
well, do you have a ballpark in your mind what it might cost?
meter base, wire,
Labor.
IMC, conduit,
Do we have a temporary metered base already set up
no,
for?
we do not.
I have an idea.
I would say, I mean, just swinging off the hip, $1,000.
No.
Well, let me ask you, Cindy, would Main Street pay $1,000 to have that power on?
Well, we just might do that. For it wouldn't cost the city.
What if, could we ask a
just
neighbor?
received a $2,500 grant.
Well, I meant, could we ask a neighbor and pay for their I mean, like, can we not hook that tree up? I'm saying that nicely.
Bill?
Yeah, it's,
Well, I'm saying like, I mean, like, that's okay. And we have two businesses, or we have one that's not a business anymore, but we have another business that we possibly could ask and say, hey, can we cover your
Your electric
yeah, that's
bill.
what I was
Electric bill.
going to suggest, my wife works there finishing touch and, I mean, there may be the possibility that they would allow you to.
I'm just throwing that
How
out
bad
there.
would it be to run an extension cord across the road?
Absolutely.
Wouldn't be.
There you go, because we have our own power across the road from the other Christmas tree.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm just saying you have, let's see, there's Pop there, and then you have Central National Bank, which obviously is not anymore, but then
Thanks,
you also
Chief.
have Budrose. You have Budrose right there behind.
Well, but I think what they're talking about is on the opposite side of the street. Not the Christmas tree that exists there. They're wanting to put up like a 40-foot.
On the big empty lot we
Yeah, on the
have,
big
they want to put a
empty lot.
40-foot Christmas tree up for everybody.
Oh my heavens, I love that.
Sounds
I do love it. It does. I
Can we
do.
maybe do tinsel instead? And
I'm just thinking, that's a lot of money.
yeah.
And is it
But
just
if we do
temporary?
this, stay away from the area that has to be dug up, because we'll get in a lot of trouble.
And since we're
Well, you
bringing
gave
that up,
me what you needed. Thank you. Appreciate it. Email me anytime. We're just trying to get it solved.
Thank you.
since we're talking about that, Mayor, we were kind of having a side conversation. We had a few complaints about the holes down there along Jackson Street, that some of the tape and the barriers are not sufficient for those big holes for what we're waiting on. So we need to get something more permanent to keep
Do you
people
know of
safe
anything
down
we could
there
use?
from now through January. And I don't know what it is, but it needs to be
It's a
something
real bad,
permanent.
You would
Or
probably, we would have to do temporary fencing company. I mean, that's.
I think
not the
that we
only-
got to do that for public safety. We're gonna have to.
yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, I mean, even the barrels that are down there laying on their sides
Yeah.
right now, it's not a good situation.
No.
And it's dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, potentially.
So I think we'll do that. We'll get it. Eric, will you get a hold of the fencing company? Okay. Thank
Would you be open to
I know
splitting that
that's
with Main Street?
fairly
though? So we can have a
That's
nice
fine.
Christmas tree?
Yes, I love it. 40 foot.
Yeah, what do you think?
Is the Badlands
They didn't
participating?
let you help decorate.
Yes, they
I
are.
don't want to do that.
So the Badlands is participating in that too.
Can we,
Yeah, they're gonna decorate the tree, put it up.
do we need to get an estimate for the cost to add power out there?
That's the thing, is it, are
Because
they gonna
right-
get it done in time?
Right now, we're
Can we get it
talking not even getting any place until January, February, March.
Right.
With the situation, so I would like to propose that we split it with Main Street.
Yes.
Whatever the expense is, if it's $1,000, we do 500, they do 500.
It's up to you guys.
Be a beautiful Christmas tree, it'll be something nice for the community.
Well, I think it's a great idea.
I want to share that we have met with Kyle Knopf from the Badlands. And Kyle said, if you can get that lighting in, we will decorate
So
the
clear.
trees. And he was saying that he spent like $7,500 on Christmas tree lights last year. He's looking to double that
Wow.
this year, and he would like that in that lot where everybody can see it. They're going through town, and it's just like a, woof.
Can I double check where it is? Is it in the old Napa area? In that?
No,
No, he's talking
We
about
can't-
down
Where
there.
that lot is.
it's gotta be over on the side where the market's going,
Okay.
till after Christmas.
Wherever the safe area is,
Yeah.
because we're not gonna excavate. We're just gonna, he's gonna put poles in and secure that tree. If anybody has a 40-foot tree, we'll take it,
How long will that be up? I'm just trying to coordinate.
probably until January.
Well, we've got another conversation about excavating and recapping.
Or until it comes down. I mean, we're not gonna, there's not a hard and fast date.
I mean, the truth
Well,
is that whole block is still under construction.
I understand that. I understand that. But if they can say we have to come in and excavate in December of the 6th, then it'll come down.
Okay.
Because we're not gonna stand in the way of the city making progress on that.
We appreciate that.
Well,
And we appreciate the thought too. I think it's
Yeah.
a nice idea.
We're not
And-
trying to steal Christmas. We're not the Grinches.
We're
We're
not.
not. Yeah.
Mayor,
Well, you are, but.
Well,
I've had conversation with Mr. Gentry. The stuff that he has sitting there, and some additional equipment, because of the delay now,
Uh-huh.
he's taking that stuff back and getting it out of the way.
Those will have
So-
plenty of room.
So
then.
we'll have the entire block
Yeah.
there that will look nice and everything
Yeah.
else during that time frame.
I think splitting the cost is a good idea.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's,
I mean, it's minimal for some of the stuff we do, and it would be great for
I
the
agree.
community to show something, and that
we
would be
spent
a wow
$3,500
factor.
on a stage for the Flying Pickles or whatever. What was their name?
Flying Toasters.
Toasters, yeah.
Wow, what an impression they made on you, Trish.
What's that?
Crowd down there.
Oh, they did. That was our biggest
Yeah.
music crowd.
Yeah, yeah. So
I think you just created.
I started a new band.
Eric, would you call somebody to get us an estimate on that? And
The only question is, do you think they'll be able to get it done?
I don't know. I'm scared.
I don't know.
Can I-
You don't want that.
that's the whole purpose of the meeting Wednesday.
Okay.
Those properties are not.
Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know which
I don't
way.
know. I don't know where the. I don't
Well,
know
we'll
where
have an
the-
idea Wednesday then, probably. So,
Yeah, 'cause I'll probably do the H and everything myself.
Oh, okay.
It's a matter of
One,
two.
we'll have that file.
Well, even better, you just cut the cost down, didn't you?
Right.
Might as well just.
how much are we willing to pay?
Sonic lamp.
$500.
That's our limit.
What if Eric's low? Let's say up to,
We'll pay
up
half.
to seven
Let's
fifty.
pay half, whatever.
We'll say up to $750, so you go up to $1,500.
Is there a motion?
Did you have something?
Yeah, I should explain it. It's not something you just need to know. So we've got the market parcels, which is the one you're talking about.
Right.
That has gone into the county and we're still working on the closure of that or the transfer of that. Obviously, these tanks are creating some issues. And so if there is a plume that, goes into that lot, plus we've got to dig out and recompact. So there's some delay on that issue. Just know that the whole thing is a construction site. Putting a tree on it's no big deal, but you just have to kind of think through the schedule of what everybody's doing because we don't want to cause trouble.
And I guess with that, as I know, based off conversation, like 1 November, the city was supposed to be set, which now we've had delays beyond our control, which delays you, which delays the project. So I understand that, but having it to where we can have a Christmas tree there in between now and probably January, February before we're
It's
actually gonna
probably
be able to
fine.
do
I'm just
anything.
saying, yeah.
But if we did need to do something urgently to get it down, then, we
So
would
be it.
not hold up any project. I mean, I'm hopeful that it's not as, not bad, not that much of an expense, and we can continue to move, but we have hit a bump in the road that is delaying us, so why not put up something nice for the city? And if Kyle's willing to put up a bunch of lights and do something amazing, then so be it.
So do we have a motion to approve $750 if needed?
I'll make a motion to approve $750 for Christmas lights if needed.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There you go, Cindy.
Thank you.
There you go, Rod. Okay. Next,
Eric, I guess, I'm sorry with it. When you do the temporary fencing, I along Jackson, I would recommend us putting another line in between, like right in the middle of those parcels, and block that whole fuel tank mess out of the way.
Probably a good idea.
Is that
yeah.
expensive?
Yes, very expensive.
And for those out there that don't know, when we demoed the buildings, there were 4 fuel tanks that were dug up, and one of them still had fuel in it, and there was evidence of fuel in the soil.
Oh, no.
So we're working with the EPA and the IDEM right now. We had to hire a contractor to come in and take samples, and if everything has to be removed and replaced, it's going to cost us about $248,000. So that's kind of where we're at with that. Is that right,
I
Judd?
don't, the 248 had to do with the relocation of the Duke stuff, didn't it?
No, no.
Okay, I haven't seen that.
Okay, I'll send that to you.
Yeah, that has to do with the compaction and the excavation of the soil. That's what the 248
Oh, okay,
was the
that's really
lowest.
the
So
non.
this is the
non-
this is the
underground
yeah,
storage tank.
yeah,
This
this
is something
is the
else.
great, well, it's the grading project, and it did include removal of soil and some other stuff in those walls. We needed to along Perry and mill and all that other stuff like that. So it's kind of all inclusive depending on the extensiveness of the dig. 'Cause for them to compact it, they're gonna have to take some out anyway, so. To be
There's a
determined.
big oil tank.
So
found
the
behind
game
solid.
plan, I don't,
And then there's
this
another
kind of
tank.
jives with what you're
Then
talking about, the game
There's actually
plan
a
on
tank
the
corner.
the
We didn't need another.
contractors coming in. IDEM sent this letter that said you've got till January 5th to investigate and explain what the scope of the contamination is. And you're required to have at least 3 underground soil grabs and water grabs. And so one of the 3 contractors, Patriot, and I met there Friday, and he was talking about, he looked at the lab report of the sampling that was already done and had identified where the hot spots were. And the good news, to the extent there's any good news in this, is it was above the actionable level for a residential zone, not a commercial zone. And so they understand that this is a commercial zone, but they want to know how big the plume is from what is probably right in the corner of Jackson and Perry. That is where it was the hottest. And so he kind of spelled out, in his opinion, what he thought IDEM would accept in terms of the number of bores. And so that I could tell the other 2 contractors that we want, here's how many we want. And your bid needs to be time and materials, but not to exceed X. If you're going to hit like 7 places, I think is where he identified that we would probably need to do soil samples. So the IDEM letter is like really ambiguous, and he said, you do 3, I guarantee you're going to come back and do it again, because there's no way on one of the tanks, the results are clear enough of whether it's an actionable level or not. And so 4 of the 7 are around one tank that's out by the alley, that the hole that's there, which probably needs to be within the fenced area, because you could drive a car into it right now.
Absolutely.
But just to give you an idea of what he's talking about, most of them was around that, despite the fact that the hot spot is at Perry and Jackson to the extent that it's hot. But what he was saying was he was hopeful that if it doesn't appear that it went out into the streets, that maybe IDEM would agree to an environmentally restrictive covenant, which is an agreement that you will not excavate there in the future, and it would never be residential, and it would never be like a daycare or a school where there's going to be people present for, or a nursing home, or residential where people are going to spend more than half a day there every day, which is real common for how. So they don't make you. They used to make it clean enough to eat, and now they don't do that because it's not feasible. I mean, it's just it costs there's not enough money to go around. So they understand that. So as long as you're willing to not excavate a foundation, so I don't know what their plans are, but that's typically how one of these cases would be settled after you know the scope of the plume underground.
Eric, what did Eric Smith send to us
This is the second time I've heard the word.
Today?
Yeah.
about the removal? Because I seen something for 248,000.
No, that's actually for the compaction, for the marketplace.
Just the marketplace?
Yeah, so
Oh,
that was,
that's what I was mistaken for the Duke thing.
Okay, I think we got
It was
miscommunicated. I'm
two
sorry.
46 on the low end and like
Yeah, one
his
was two
estimate
forty-eight,
was
one was
339.
483,
Yeah, right on.
463.
That's for compaction. That's not related to this.
I apologize.
And,
I
and,
got
and
off.
we've notified the city's insurance and they're following along and they're gonna be sending us a letter saying that tentatively they're not on the hook, but they're gonna look into it with this too. And they
Do we
agree
already
with
have
this
that for
plan that I just laid out about getting the three
We don't have that
contractors.
for bid yet?
And we're gonna have to figure out from the prior owners if they had insurance that may cover this.
Okay.
Because the old insurance policies are really valuable, believe it or not,
Wow.
because of some bad language that was drafted into them.
Well, thank you. Thanks for clearing that up for me.
And I guess regarding the fencing, because I know it's very expensive, would the orange fence, if we actually drove posts in and did something more semi-permanent, would that be more economical around that whole area?
Yeah, most definitely.
Can we try
And
that
do you think
first?
that's something you could get in, like this side of the sidewalk on Jackson and
Yeah,
cut around that?
Yeah, we could even core drill into the sidewalk and place the post in the sidewalk. And we do it all the time whenever we're digging up a water main break or something like that.
Because if we did panels all around that, that would
Might be
cost you
cheaper
a fortune.
alternative.
If we could try to do that, I like that idea better.
Okay. Let's try that first then.
Good idea, Scott.
Thank you. Okay, next we have an ordinance amending the membership of the Park Board. I'll just read it real quick. Whereas the Common Council of the City of Attica believes that a more diverse membership of its Park Board with representation from multiple groups within the city shall best assist with the planning, maintenance, organization, and enhancement of park services to the citizens of Attica. Now therefore be it ordained by the Common Council of the City of Attica as follows. Pursuant to Indiana Code 36-10-3-4A, the Park Board of the City of Attica shall be made up of the following 6 members. 4 members to be appointed by the city executive based on their interest and knowledge of parks and recreation, which shall include, and there's A, B, C, D, and it has their terms. Number 2 is 1 member of the governing body of the school corporation selected by the governing body of the school corporation, or an individual who resides in the school corporation selected by the governing body of the school corporation, which shall include, and it has a blank, 1 member of the governing body of the library district selected by that body, which shall include. This ordinance was passed and adopted today. So do we have a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept the ordinance as written.
We have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll pass that to.
Are we having issues?
Well, we've
I
had,
Well,
read that, I mean.
It's like every board we have, it's hard to get everybody at every meeting, and a lot of times they don't have a quorum, so it'd be nicer to have a few more members available.
And you get a more diverse group of people.
That makes sense.
I assume they'll go through a nomination process.
And then, Mr. Grant, did you want to give us an update on the council?
Yeah, I sent, I think I sent this out to all the council members back on October 22nd, but I wanted to bring it up at the council meeting. I sent this letter to Mr. Jensen, who's the principal of the high school, thanking him for the school's participation in the junior city council. My congratulations and thanks go out to all of them taking an interest in helping to make our city a great place to live. I had 8 applications, and as it worked out, I wanted to try to include all 8 in some way, shape, or form. And as it worked out well. So I've got the letter here if you don't have it, but I'll pass it around. But I want to congratulate Senior Eli French. His term will end August 31st and 24. Eli's in the crowd here tonight, so congratulations. Senior Natalie Jean, her term will end August 31st as well. Junior Jocelyn Barnett, her term will end December 31st of 24. Sophomore Grace Hiller, her term will end December 31st of 24. And freshman Caden Ashley, Term will end December 31st of 24. In order to take the place of the two seniors that'll be leaving in August, I have the two sophomores penciled in. Morgan Wood, term would start September 1st of 24 and end December 31st of 24. Sophomore Lillian Irwin will take one of the senior spots. Term starts September 1st of 24 and ends December 31st of 24. And then we had a sixth grader apply, which I thought was great. Addison Hill. She will be the first alternate, and she may attend meetings and fill in if other members are not in attendance, and that term would end December 31st of 24 as well. And all the students are encouraged to apply for future extended terms before October 1st of 24. And I'll pass that around for everybody to look at if you haven't already seen it.
Did you have all these kids?
I had a lot of them.
So I'm excited to bring some of these students along and get their input on things, particularly the parks and things that pertain heavily to them. And I think it'll be good for them and it'll be good for the city.
I agree. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, want to remind everybody about the Christmas parade. It's November 30th, 6 p.m.
Yes.
And it was great last year. I imagine it'll be better this year. So that's all I have. Does anybody have anything else?
We talked about,
One more thing. Remember with the GeneX solar farm, one of the components is an economic development agreement that needs to be agreed by the council and the company. Their application through the BCA was approved Wednesday night or Tuesday night, whatever that was. And so that's all subject to this one requirement that they get the economic development agreement. And I asked Heidi Amspa to review that agreement. And she said that you should consider asking Rick Hall from Barnes and Thornburg to help you with that, because he's the attorney that's helping Fountain County look at the very same agreement from GeneX. And so I would like permission to talk to Rick Hall, who I'm talking to about something else unrelated for Warren County tomorrow. But I'd like permission to talk to him about reviewing the EDA and trying to get something queued up for your December 11th meeting so that that's all done this year now. Everything will be set for them to come in by December of 2027 is how long they have to put their project in.
Well, I think that's great. Go
Is
ahead.
that,
Yes.
I haven't
I think
reached
that she
yet. I wanted
recommended it,
to
yes.
hear that was,
I think having a subject matter expert with this that's representing the county, I think it'd be beneficial.
Yes.
Yep, I agree.
and that way we don't get like the short end or the long end of anything. It's gonna be, whatever was good for Fountain County, I'm sure it's gonna be reciprocated in our agreement. But she said he's like the number one attorney that reviews solar agreements. So
Okay.
Does he work pro bono?
he does not. Trust me.
Well, just for my understanding, is that agreement between you and GeneX or you and the county?
That's at GeneX in the city of Attica in the 2 mile fringe. It has to do with the zoning code. It includes things like the per megawatt fee and the application fee, and then a payment, an incentive payment to the city. Because none of those taxes are gonna be recovered by the city, although it's in your zoning and planning. So that's kind of what that EDA is all about, is to.
Okay.
Is there a separate agreement then between the city and the county?
no, but that also needs to be discussed. Because that money should not be going to other parts of the county. That money needs to be spent here.
So we've already had those discussions and the county has agreed,
To that 100%.
no, not 100%, to share based on the distance from the city limits. So you need to negotiate those terms, but that's what they've agreed to do.
In principle, what Mr. Shoemaker talked about and proposed was anything inside the 2 mile fringe, we would get 100%.
Okay.
And then as we move further out, that would drop off incrementally on a number to be decided. So 5 miles out, it may be 0, but 3 miles out, it may be 50.
How does that work then? Because we also know, I could be wrong, feel free to correct me, my dolphin solar friends. How does that work? Is Covington also not getting solar as well? Am I dreaming this? Did I not see that
So-
posted somewhere?
So solar companies are not putting solar panels inside of any city limits. And there was one over by Petersburg that's shared with the county. And so Attica's in the county. Attica would benefit from.
I don't, but that's what I'm saying, that those families that this is directly affecting, in my opinion, this is, I'm not discussing with anybody, I've seen a map of the Covington, and maybe I'm wrong, but even if I'm not, it still goes for Attica. Those are Attica addresses, those are Attica students, those are all these Attica people. That should be coming to Attica in a general sense, however that works. None of that money should go to Covington. Same with Covington. If Covington has things around
It
them,
doesn't work that way. The
then I have a
solar
problem.
farms are in the county. They're not in.
Then
your
we're not gonna get any
jurisdiction.
money, Rod. And I have no problem saying this, that any money at all is gonna go to Covington.
No,
And it's,
well,
yes, it will, Rod. We have talked about this over and over again. Attica is, we are at a disadvantage for some reason. It has continued to happen over and over. And now, I'm not saying that they did not give us money for other things when you came and stepped up for that. I'm not saying that, but we have a problem.
And we're fixing the problem. So the reason WEGA is countywide is that we're addressing that countywide. So we'll see how the agreement gets structured. But when the money comes in, we intend that WEGA will be the management arm based in Attica, managing for the whole county. We're also moving away from these silos. We have to. We're a small community. We cannot have Attica fighting against Covington and vice versa.
I'm not trying to, I'm saying
So
we, for
we are
so
going to
long years, this has
Produce a
happened.
plan that everyone benefits from, including Attica.
I'm hopeful, but I'm just saying, this is not new, where Attica does not get a fair share, that we don't get a fair share.
Well, I think what Larry just mentioned though, is something within the 2 mile fringe, then 100% to us, and then as a phase out, then that's county dollars. And I think it would be the same thing for any other city, if it's outside of Covington or outside of Kingman or wherever it would be, they would get the primary rights for that 2 mile fringe.
I would
and then
agree
it
with-
goes into the county.
And the
So
2
we're
mile
getting
fringe
the
was
bulk
the
of it.
trigger.
Not everybody has the 2 mile fringe though.
Yeah.
We were pretty fortunate that we had that set up when we did. I don't know that Petersburg or Covington even had that 2 mile fringe for zoning out beyond their city limits.
Petersburg's the only one.
Do they?
I hear you, Kaylee, and we're working on it. The past has not been that great, but it's going to get better.
And here's the thing, I told you, having been in meetings prior to this, and maybe because I was naive, I did not know, and I'm gonna say this because it's true, the hatred. I didn't know that, and it makes me really sad, because I never felt that way, and I don't feel that way about, and I'm picking on Covington, it doesn't matter, Covington, Petersburg, that doesn't matter. But the amount of people that I sat in meetings and I was belittled because I'm from here, and this is where I live, it was very upsetting. And I had no idea. And I'm going to continue saying that until something changes. I had no idea.
Well, we should invite you to our meetings because we're having fantastic meetings.
I am glad to hear that. I am.
Okay, one more, Cindy.
I just had a question, and this kind of stems from GX's presentation in line about the county benefiting, and then our schools would benefit. And that was my question, if we have all this around in our townships that comprise our school, will we get a bigger percentage because the money that the county is getting comes from our school district? Will our school receive a better piece of the pie? Because if you've got in Logan Township, Davis Township, Shawnee Township, and then I believe Richland. And Richland would be for Fountain Central. But is Attica School Corporation going to be able to benefit? Like we understand schools are going to be benefiting from this project. Is our school going to be benefiting?
Cause at the meeting, didn't it say it was like 50% out of whatever that money, remember they said a number, somebody said a number, and they said 50% of that would go to the schools, correct?
County taxes.
Okay,
I mean, that's just generally speaking.
County tax dollars comes in, I mean, there's a set amount, right? A set
Yeah,
percentage.
and it's like 50.
Right, I mean, the more tax dollars the county brings in the district, the more dollars the schools
Goes
get.
to school, and schools are typically the biggest
Yeah.
percentage of any tax dollars for all of us.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I thought,
Yes.
Wayne's here, we asked a question about the school. Isn't Wayne here? Yeah, yes, sir. He kind of alluded to it wouldn't be out of the question for the school to receive a direct check. And, I mean, he wasn't trying to hide that might be a normal thing. It should be negotiated, I would suggest, directly for the school. It's all Attica school. Anybody in this area for GNX would come to Attica schools. So it would be out of the question for Attica schools to receive a direct payment out of this much like the city is anticipating.
Well, I think as we've seen declining enrollment and a lot of the changes and a new school, being built and everything else, I'm all supportive for whatever we can do to support the school, whether it is technology or whatever it may be, to make some improvements and do better for our kids. I mean, that's.
I do hope they'll find a solution in coordination with the county for the May family, but it needs to be addressed.
I might suggest as well, it wouldn't hurt to attribute your dollars, all of your dollars, to the school. I mean, the most fundamental issue we have here is shoring up the school and competing with Seeger and providing for the new kids that are coming in with the new housing and so forth. They really do need tremendous help.
We don't need those kids to go to Seeger. We need them to stay here.
Right. So that would be a huge boost to use your dollars for that purpose.
Well, I don't.
Chuck, what do we need to do to move this along? I mean, as far as, how would we decide this?
I mean, what you would decide would be between you and the county in terms of what you do with the dollars that are the result of that negotiation. That would be up to you to decide how to do it in conjunction with the school. If the school was going to do a direct ask to the company, they should do the direct ask to the company. That's what I agree, they alluded to an agreement between the company and the school where the school receives some of that. I don't know if they meant receive a share of the tax dollars, but if that's what they meant, that's gonna have to be an agreement made with the county too.
Okay.
Because they're the ones that are supposed to get the tax dollars.
That's something we can think about for the next meeting.
Kind of where I was going. If the county's bringing in more tax dollars, the school gets a fixed percentage of that.
Yeah.
So the more the county gets, the more the school gets.
Yeah.
So it's not a direct payment to the school, but in essence it is, because they're going to get more of the tax dollars if the tax revenue goes up.
And then the payments that the city would get, I could see a huge portion of that going to schools, but I'd love to see, would be revenue that would be unexpected. And I think we could support some of the additional small businesses with some maintenance on some of the buildings downtown, so we don't have to continue to take more down. Whether it's.
Well, that's
some kind
what
of
I was
grants
thinking, the
and,
school and
places
economic
that could go.
development would be the two top items we would probably need. Okay.
Don't even go there.
Is you guys break ground yet?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
I'll say.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Sorry, Larry, we're a little over an hour.
That's it. Candace, if you're driving with Taylor, you go ahead.